Dior just did what every house in Paris is too afraid to do right now: surrender control to a designer who refuses to play it safe. Jonathan Anderson's debut for Dior Men's Spring-Summer 2026 isn't a collection, it's a manifesto about modern masculinity, power, and the performance of privilege. And if you look closely, it's a psychological game of dualities that rewrites Dior's identity in one afternoon. Let's unpack it. The venue alone set the tone. Les Invalides, not a modern glass box, not a street takeover, but a literal 17th century military hospital turned museum. Velvet walls, parquet floors, and the haunting stillness of classic French art. It wasn't loud, it was intellectual. Anderson isn't selling you spectacle, he's offering curation. And in a post-hype luxury market, that's the new power move. The very first look told you everything. A Donegal tweed bar jacket, historically a staple of Dior's women's line, cropped and rigid, paired with cargo shorts featuring a bustle detail. A subtle rebellion. Masculinity polished up top, disarmed down below. Anderson's reminding us that the strongest men today don't perform strength, they perform contradiction. And that's where fashion gets interesting. Every outfit after felt like a character. The prep school misfit in floral embroidered waistcoats and soft pastel knits, the quiet intellectual in tailored jackets paired with relaxed chinos and untucked formal shirts, the nostalgic artist in cropped jeans and cable knits so delicate they looked stolen from their grandmother's attic. This wasn't a runway, it was a cast of modern archetypes, each narrating a different kind of power. The accessories were storytelling tools. Book totes printed with Dracula and dangerous liaisons, ties worn backwards, pearl buttons on schoolboy shirts, loafers against fishermen's sandals. Anderson weaponized nostalgia, irony, and British tailoring codes, but stripped them of elitism. Because real wealth today, it's not about showing off, it's about appearing effortless, slightly undone, and too culturally aware to try too hard. Even the soundtrack was a message. Bruce Springsteen's State Trooper, a song about running from authority. Anderson's telling Dior's most loyal clients, you can still wear the uniform, but don't follow the rules. And let's not ignore the duality in the silhouettes. Tailored jackets closed on one side, open on the other. Oversized sweaters paired with tailored trousers. Shirts half tucked, tension everywhere. It's masculinity in flux, where tradition and modernity are forced to coexist on the same body. Anderson's asking, what does power look like now? And the answer is layered, unfinished, even a little strange. Now, psychologically, this is Dior betting on authenticity over polish. In a luxury market struggling with overexposure and influencer fatigue, this collection feels like a strategic retreat into intellectualism. It positions Dior not as the loudest voice, but the sharpest. And in 2025, that's a smarter flex. The casting only confirmed it. A front row stacked with cultural tacticians, Rihanna, A$AP Rocky, Daniel Craig. Not just celebrities, style philosophers in their own right. Dior's aligning itself with thinkers, not just faces. Because when a brand stops chasing relevance and starts building conversations, it becomes untouchable. And here's why this matters. In a climate where Fashion Week is often a stream of viral moments designed for TikTok engagement, Jonathan Anderson's Dior debut slowed the room down. It asked you to notice a collar fold, a book title, the color of a sock. It was a reminder that real luxury isn't noise, it's detail. And that detail is where meaning hides. This show wasn't made for everyone, and that's the point. It was made for the quiet ones, the readers, the archivists, the tastemakers, who know that luxury isn't about labels anymore. It's about intellect disguised as aesthetic. Follow at GTWJ Mag on Instagram for my full breakdown of the standout looks, the symbolism behind those book totes, and how Dior just played one of the smartest psychological games in luxury fashion this year. Because if there's one thing we learned today, it's that fashion isn't about clothing anymore. It's about coded language. And Jonathan Anderson just became Dior's most fluent translator. GTWJ, where fashion thinks deeper. And if you were watching closely, you'd realize this wasn't just a new era for Dior, it was a quiet eulogy for the old one. The Maria Grazia Chiuri years, defined by soft femininity, logo-heavy accessories, and commercially safe silhouettes, couldn't be further from what Anderson just presented. This was cerebral, challenging, and at moments intentionally unapproachable. Because true luxury today, it isn't about being liked by everyone, it's about being understood by a few. Let's talk about those standout details. The pearl-embellished fisherman sandals, a nod to Anderson's Lowo archives, reinterpreted here to question how working-class practicality can coexist with elite opulence. The Dracula book totes? That's not just a quirky prop, it's a commentary on how luxury consumers romanticize rebellion and how subversion itself has become a marketable aesthetic. Even the color palette mattered: soft creams, melancholic grays, pale sky blues. These aren't colors meant to dominate a room, they're colors that suggest restraint, introspection. In a fashion landscape drowning in dopamine brights and logomania, Anderson's muted choices whisper luxury without shouting it. And that final look, a double-breasted jacket, slightly oversized, with trousers cut just shy of perfection, accessorized with a single backward-worn tie, summed up the entire message. It's anti-perfectionism in a world obsessed with polish. Anderson's Dior man isn't trying to be flawless. He's too cultured, too self-aware, too experienced for that. And in 2026, that quiet confidence is the new apex of status. I know people will argue this isn't Dior. But what even is Dior anymore? Is it the 1947 new look? Is it the streetwear tinged tailoring of Kim Jones? Or is it what Anderson proposes? A house not frozen in nostalgia, but constantly interrogating what elegance, masculinity, and cultural currency mean right now. And that's why this show matters, because it acknowledges that modern luxury isn't a product, it's a conversation. One built through references, contradictions, and quiet provocations. And in a post-trend, post-hype world, that's exactly what will keep Dior relevant. I'll be breaking down even more symbolism from this collection and what it signals for the future of men's fashion over on @GTTJMag. Follow us there if you care about fashion that thinks as much as it stuns, because what we just witnessed wasn't just a show, it was a dissertation, wasn't just a venue, it was a character. It stripped away the gloss and forced you to confront the clothes in their purest form. No theatrics, no spectacle, just silhouette, texture, and attitude. A deliberate rejection of the overproduced, over-sponsored fashion shows we've come to expect from luxury houses desperate for virality. Even the soundtrack choice, hovering somewhere between melancholic electronica and classic orchestral swells, created this dissonance, a push and pull between past and future. And that's what Anderson excels at. He makes you uncomfortable in your certainty. He takes symbols you thought you understood, a tie, a sandal, a book, and repositions them so you're forced to question their meaning. And that's the true power play here. It's not about pleasing everyone. It's about unsettling them, making them think. Because in 2026, the luxury consumer isn't just buying a jacket, they're buying alignment with a philosophy, a worldview. And Anderson understands that better than almost anyone. This collection wasn't designed for the masses, it was designed for the discerning, the ones who can spot a low reference at 20 paces, who read Susan Sontag essays for pleasure, and who know that real luxury is being ahead of comprehension, not chasing it. Which is exactly why Dior putting Jonathan Anderson in this seat is one of the boldest moves the house has made in decades. It signals a pivot, not just in aesthetic, but in intellect. Fashion isn't surface anymore. It's subtext, and if you missed that message, you weren't the intended audience. I'll have a full breakdown of the hidden references and the psychological strategy behind this collection up on GTWJ Mag later this week. Because trust, there's so much more to unpack here. This is how fashion moves culture forward, not with shock, but with subtle, brilliant recalibration. And Anderson, he's about to rewrite the rules. GWJ, where fashion thinks deeper.